Hey folks, welcome back. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to show you how I made this little foot clamping system for my Kreg jig. And so I don't waste any time. It's very, very simple. This should only take a few minutes really to explain how I did this, and you'll be able to make one yourself. So the first thing I did was I got this piece of bike cable, and what I got was the brake cable, because brake cable is a lot stronger than the shifter cable. So when you look for it, make sure you get a brake one. They'll be 2 millimeters instead of 1.5. And I just got a 6 foot length, and I didn't need near that. I only got a piece here. I only ended up using just a few feet. I was a little worried about it, but it ended up being a very little bit. So the first thing I made when I made this was this simple little foot paddle system. And what I'll do is take a few screws out here to show you just what I did. So what you'll need for sizes is this piece here on the top. It should have been 3 inches. I made it a little bit too small here, so make a piece 3 inches and then make it 8 inches long, and you're going to want to set your hole back for this cable 2 inches, and just make it so that you can see this cable has a little nub on the end. Just make it so that that little nub won't push down through, and so 2 inches in and just centered in the center of this 8x3 block. And then what I have here, so I'm going to take the spring off the jig so that I can pull this out of here. So then what I did is I cut this little block here, which is I just got to check this. I think it's about 6.5 or something around them lines. Yeah, about 6 5/8 is what this board is. So you just want a little paddle that'll fit in between. This is what you want. And then these boards here, I made them 4 inches by 4 by 9. And then this piece on the back was 4 by 8. And then this was made the right thickness to fit in between there, is what it was made. And when I put my little screws, the pivot points in the end, the screws, I set them in about 1/2 inch, and I pre-drilled them so that, they're quite a long screw. They're about a 3-inch screw, or 3.5. So then when you take them out, you can see these screws have a little smooth point at the end there. Well, the other ones are a little longer, so they have a little longer spot that is smooth. So that acts as a pretty decent pivot point. Now, if you wanted to get fancy, I made this jig up just in a couple hours, so I wasn't being fancy. But you know what? I think this would last for a long, long time, especially for somebody who was just drilling a few pocket holes, or a few thousand. This would drill more than a few, obviously, before it breaks. I've been playing with it quite a little bit here, and it's, a screw through wood like that will pivot quite a long while without any problems. So then what I did was I took my saber saw and I actually just put a little slit here, about 1 inch long is what I did, just in the center of this board. And then on the back side, I just took a drill and just drilled in a little wee bit, so that when this part, the end of the bike cable gets slid in there, then it'll give it a little pocket for it to sit in. So that gives you your pull point. And it makes it easy to take apart too if you ever need to change the cable. So very, very simple, just a little thing that will sit on the floor, and you can actually stick your toe in there and step on it. So then with the jig, I did have to drill a hole in the jig, and where that hole is located, it's actually from the face of the jig back to the hole is 2 inches, and then it's about 1/2 inch off center of the jig. And you could do the exact same thing if you own one of these old Kreg jigs, the steel ones. You could do the exact same thing, back 2 inches and 1/2 inch off center. Just drill a hole, just a small hole big enough for the bike cable to fit through, and then the cable will rest on the back side. That's the little shoulder that it'll fit on. And then what I did, I just made this base. It's not any particular size. You can make it as big as you want, as long as it was as wide as the base. And then I just put this piece 6 1/4 inches high in behind and made a little framework to kind of stiffen it up. And then just drove a screw there, and then you'll have to get a little spring of some sort in order to be able to pull the clamp back open, as you can see there. And in order to hook everything down, what I did was I drilled a 7/16 hole right in the end of the jig within 1/2 inch, and then just drilled a hole in the end of the bolt so I could put the bike cable through it, and then put the spring on the other side, and then just sandwiched it together so that it holds the bike cable and the spring. So really, really straightforward. It's pretty simple, and then the cable right through the bottom of the board. So in my last video, I was talking about having to leave this hang over the end of the bench. But I figured out a way that's very simple in order to have it sit inside the bench. You're going to have to drill a hole in your bench, but if you were to take and just drill a simple hole in your bench, then what you could do is just slide that cable down through, have your jig sit wherever you wanted it to, and then you just have to take your spring off, and that's why I have these two screws off here. Now if I just push this down through that top hole, lift up my paddle like this, stick my cable in where it goes, and then I just put these screws back in. Hook my spring back up, and then I'd be ready for foot clamping. Just put it on the floor now, so now I can put it down there. We'll see if I can't adjust the camera just a little bit so you can see this too. So there, hard to get the whole shot here in. So now what I'll do is just drill a few holes to show you. So, it's good to have a couple of screws just holding your jig to the bench, just to keep it from moving around. So I'll just stick a couple of holes in my bench, or the jig, and then I'll be able to adjust my clamp and actually start drilling. And this thing is, you know, I wouldn't want to I wouldn't be clamping normally this tight, but with this jig, it's really hard to tell. So a good way is to actually undo the spring and actually clamp it by hand a few times and just see how tight you are, because I find with the foot clamping system, it's real easy to clamp it almost too tight, and then it might somehow break the jig or something. So, you know, adjust your clamp up so it's clamping is, you know, like you would normally with your hand, and then you can hook your spring all up, tension it, and then you'll be able to, you know, drill without having to set your drill down. You know, you'll be able to, you know, clamp, drill. And it's going to take a little while. This is actually, you guys are seeing the second and third and fourth hole that I just drilled. I drilled one hole before I started the video with this thing, and so it takes a little bit of getting used to, but you know, way easier to open and close this clamp, especially if I was drilling a big panel with this. This is the best way. So hopefully you guys are having fun watching. Now what I gotta do is I gotta take this apart, and I gotta go and put my pocket hole machine back together, because I tore it apart to be able to make this video for you guys, because that's the jig that actually goes in the pocket hole machine. So you guys keep tuning in. Hopefully you're having fun watching, and we'll see you next time.